What is up, everybody? It's BroSeth here, and today I'm coming at you with a simple tips and tricks how to catch Pokemon for beginners in Pokemon Go. So I said I was going to come out with this a while ago. It's been taking me a while. I was trying to get some footage of it, didn't really get a lot, so this is just kind of probably just going to be some random stuff playing in the background right now. But what's really important are the tips themselves. I have about 7 here. And some of them are really short, really simple, like things that if you've played this game before, you're going to be like, well, that's obvious. But like I said, this guide is going to be for beginners, people who haven't been playing very long or are literally just starting, just to kind of help them to, figure out the best ways to catch Pokemon and what are nice things to do. So without further ado, let's get started with tip number 1, which is look at the size of the circle. The size of the circle determines like how far away the Pokemon is from you. So if it's a really small circle, that means that the Pokemon is likely like a flying type or just a really high level Pokemon, and it's going to be farther back in the screen, which means you're going to have to flick much harder than you would for a Pokemon that's like, say, a Pidgey, which are really close to you on the screen and you barely have to flick at all in order to hit it. So something to be very aware of is to just make sure that you're looking at the size of the circle, because if you aren't flicking hard enough, you're going to waste a lot of Pokeballs trying to catch those flying Pokemon like Golbats and Zubats and all that stuff that are just so far back there. So always be looking at the size of the circle. And going off of that, tip number 2 is use curveballs on the closer Pokemon and try to stay away from them for the longer range Pokemon. You definitely can hit a Pokemon of any distance with a curveball, but it's so much harder and you're going to be wasting so many more Pokeballs that you'd be much better off just using a berry and taking your time and really lining up your throws for the longer Pokemon. You'll have a higher chance. It's better to throw 2 Pokeballs that all hit them than to throw 5 curveballs at a far away Pokemon and only get 1 of them. You're just wasting Pokeballs at that point. So use curveballs on closer Pokemon. If you don't know how to do it, it's really simple. You just hold on the Pokeball and spin your finger around in a circle, and then you flick it in either direction, and the ball should be curving back towards the Pokemon. And you get extra experience for catching Pokemon on a curveball, so it's just another reason to use spin balls on closer Pokemon. And moving on to tip number 3. Tip number 3 is to use raspberries to make Pokemon easier to catch. I don't recall exactly what level you get them at, but raspberries are there to increase the rate of catch for all the Pokemon. And how they work is you just go into your inventory, you click on the raspberry, it'll pop up on your screen, you click it again, and it'll automatically bury the Pokemon for you. So they'll be easier to catch. And then this lasts until if your next throw, if you throw it and it hits the Pokemon, like once the Pokemon goes inside the Pokeball, the berry has been used. So if you get a Pokemon inside the Pokeball and it pops out, that berry has been used up, which means you're going to have to use another raspberry. So that's something to definitely be wary of. It doesn't last the entire encounter or anything, so use them as much as you need to. I would save them more for the higher level CP Pokemon and the Pokemon that are much harder to catch, like starters and stuff like that. But raspberries are always nice to have in your bag. Tip number 4 is to look at the color of the ring. So not only is the size important, but the color of the ring is important. It goes from, I think, green to yellow to orangish to red, and with green being the easiest to catch and red being the hardest. So red is going to be likely those evolved forms, those really high CP, like when CP are question marks, it's usually a red, which means that's going to be extremely hard to catch. So if it's yellow, you can probably still get away with just using like a regular Pokeball, depending on what kind of Pokemon it is. With Pidgeys and Rattatas that are much easier to catch, even going on to the orange color range, you could probably still get away with just using Pokeballs if you pair it with a curveball. So just kind of be aware of what Pokemon you're throwing it at. But yeah, so generally, if it's red, you want to use the highest Pokeballs you have, as well as berries, because those Pokemon are going to be really hard to catch and they're generally really good to have. So make sure you're using your best ball and burying the Pokemon if they're red. Orangish, you can use the best balls you have, but it's probably not necessary. You could probably get away with just a regular Pokeball and a berry. And then yellow and green, you could easily get away with the Pokeball depending on what Pokemon it is. So just something to be aware of. And on to tip number 5 is to learn what kind of Pokemon like to jump or attack and hit away your balls. You know, you'll notice that Pokemon can jump up, and when they jump, you can actually still hit them with the Pokeball to try and capture them. But when they attack, you'll notice that even if you hit them square in the face, they'll just knock away your Pokeball, which is really frustrating. So just a good thing to be aware of is to learn what kind of Pokemon like to do this. So Pokemon like Pikachu like to really jump a lot, and they attack pretty regularly, so it's something to be aware of. Also another Pokemon like Mankeys tend to do this a lot, so just the best thing to do would be to try and wait for them to like jump or attack or whatever, and as soon as they go out of that motion, that's the best time to throw your Pokeball, because even though sometimes they will do it like back to back really immediately, if you try and time it with the end of it, sometimes even you can throw it a little bit before they end it, and by the time the Pokeball gets there, they'll be available to catch again. So just try and time that, and you won't waste as many Pokeballs trying to catch that Pikachu. Tip number 6 is now we've gotten so far into the game that people are starting to figure out some new information. One thing that they've learned is the catch rates of different Pokemon. So Pokemon like Pidgeys and Rattatas, the very beginner, very starter Pokemon, they're going to have a much lower catch rate in the wild than, say, a wild Charmander, which means that, you know, if you have a 60 CP Charmander, it could be a more difficult catch for you than, say, a 200 CP Pidgey. So this is another thing to keep in mind. I'm pretty sure you can just go and look this stuff up now, so you just kind of have a general idea. Like I said, also the color of the circle is going to help you with knowing which Pokemon are going to have the lower catch rates and the higher catch rates, you know, as the color of the circle will reflect that. So that's just always something to be aware of. I believe the starters have one of the lowest rates of catch in the game, so always want to be using those Great and Ultra Balls and berries when you can on those guys, because they're pretty rare as well, so just something to be aware of. And my last and final tip, which might seem a little redundant at this point, is just to take your time. I think that was my biggest problem when this game first came out, is I was just flicking Pokeballs out there left and right, but what I didn't realize is that the Pokemon, they're only going to run away after you throw a Pokeball at them. Like, if you throw a Pokeball and they don't get inside the Pokeball, they aren't going to run away from you. They're only going to run away from you after they pop out of a Pokeball. So it's not like you're on a timer or something like this and you have to throw as many Pokeballs as you can to try and catch this Pokemon. Like, unless you're driving really fast and you happen to tap on a Pokemon, and by the time that, you know, you throw your first Pokeball, you're way out of range, then they're going to automatically run usually. So that's something to be aware of as well. But just, yeah, just taking your time, line up your throws, try to get, you know, a nice, great, excellent throw. That's really going to help. But yeah, so just, you know, really take your time, line up your throws, and you are not going to use nearly as many Pokeballs. I have run out of Pokeballs multiple times because of that problem. So if there's one tip that you guys should take away, it's just to take your time. The Pokemon aren't going to go anywhere, so make sure that you're getting a good throw in there, and you should be doing just fine. So that's going to do it for today's video. If you follow those 7 tips, you're going to catch a lot more Pokemon than you would not following them. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like or send a comment my way, and as always, I would enjoy it if you subscribe to my channel for more content, and as always, I will see you guys very soon. Deuces.